I have done nothing or very little to stop evil in the world. I don't really like the word evil. It sounds a little dramatic, but I've spent a lot of time lately thinking about how unfair the world is, how unjust, and how, you can be a victim of circumstances, luck. You can be born into a country where you have just no chance of getting out. You could be born in North Korea and you just have no chance. Like, how do we come to terms with the fact that some people just have different circumstances and they can't do things that other people can? Like, if I was born in North Korea, I would not be who I am today. And I feel like a lot of people will do this, or they'll see these things and cry that life is unfair. And like myself, I'll cry and well, I don't know, cry, but I'll say life is unfair, and then I'll say there's nothing I can do about it. But there's always something you can do about it. You can talk about it. You can just bring the conversation towards it. You can make people around you aware of something, and that's that's valuable. Like, people on social media, they repost things on their stories, even though it's only to their couple hundred followers or whatever, because they know that it'll make people think about it. It might cause a ripple effect. Like, if I post something to my Instagram story and each person sends it to two people, then theoretically that could go on forever until everyone on the planet's seen my stuff. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. I could get 8 billion views in like weeks, maybe. I don't know. No, that's not going to happen. But my point is that I've spent a lot of time upset with how the world is so unfair and how so many people have such huge disadvantages, yet I've done nothing to combat that. And at the same time, I'm not one of those people who has all these disadvantages from life circumstances, from bad luck. So why does that affect me? Why do I feel upset because of the fact that I feel like I learned that 50% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Basically, they can't afford a health crisis or an unexpected expense. And despite working like 40 hours a week, all these people, and not every person's working for it, but there's a lot of people working 40 hours a week, working till they can't work anymore, and they still can't afford to live at a level that is to work 40 hours a week doing anything. You deserve to be able to live like decently comfortably, I think, unless you're like playing video games. I don't know. You have a job that actually helps people and you're working 40 hours a week. You should be able to afford to live like that. I can't believe that's controversial. Like, I don't think it's controversial anymore, but it's just not real. Like, minimum wage is unlivable. Most people say that minimum wage is just, it's not meant to live at. Like, it's meant for a starting job or for high schoolers or whatever. Well, I don't know what world y'all are living in, but every time I go to McDonald's, it's not entirely high schoolers, and there are people who need those jobs, and not every job is super glamorous and loving, but these people who are working 40 hours a week in a McDonald's on their feet all day, dealing with horrible people, dealing with crap all day, that's a horrible job. I would not do that job unless I was paid enough to live comfortably. But I guess other people, it's different for them, but it's different for everyone. Some people, they get a job where they're just told everything to do, and that's the best for them. They don't want to have to think. They can just like hop into a role, I guess. And I understand that. Sometimes it's better to just, sometimes I'll play basketball and I'd rather let someone else play point guard. I'll just sit in the corner and kind of, get some cardio in, get some shots up. But I really feel like this idea that, so many people, we think the world is so unfair and we've done nothing to combat it. Like, I've done nothing. Like, maybe from school, I've done some like charity or, actually in my life too, from my parents and like my church, I've helped the needy and stuff like that a few times. But again, that doesn't feel like it's really combating the unfairness. Like, this is gonna sound weird, but when I was in elementary school, we used to play football at recess. Just two-hand touch football all the time at recess. And initially, it was all the like football kids versus everyone else. It was just kind of like the stacked team versus everyone else. And I started playing football. I got into it, and eventually, I was like, well, guys, this would be a lot more fun if the teams were fair and each team had an equal chance of winning or close to equal chance of winning. So I started talking like that, and people agreed, and I got us to selecting captains, and it went great. We balanced out football. The games were so much more fun, competitive. I think most people I talked to enjoyed the games more, and I remember this because it felt so great. Like I don't remember a greater sense of purpose I felt at the moment than balancing life. Like there are so many things in life that are just unbalanced, unfair. One side has such a huge advantage over the other, and I was able to, even in elementary school, I was able to wrinkle out those inequalities, the unfairness. I was able to get rid of it, and that felt so amazing. Not just because I organized, but because every human has a deep sense of fairness, right? Like you play like any game like rock paper scissors. If somebody goes a little late or a little early, you're like, hey, that wasn't fair. Everyone picks that up. Like most people I think pick that up, or at least if you're very competitive like I am, you'll pick those up when things aren't completely even, when one side has an advantage over the other. And making those football teams fair, making like a fair way to pick teams like a draft, it felt great for one, I made the teams fair. Two, I made the game more competitive, more fun because it was a closer game, made it more fun, and people just respected it. People, they said like Daniel, like, oh that was great. Now we got fair teams. That game was so fun. Like that was so competitive. Whatever. And I don't remember. We were elementary school kids. I don't know that all these are paraphrased things, but I promise you that kids were happy with it. We were having a great time playing football with captains and looking forward to. I mean, you're elementary school kids, right? We obviously love recess. It's a big thing, but I don't know if other people have this deep sense of balance like I do. I feel like everything I've done in my life, I've found ways to say like, all right, this would make it more balanced. This would make it more fair, more equal. Like, let me think of some things. Like in school, if a kid finishes their work early and it's done and they can turn it in, they should be able to leave. Like that's encouraging. That saves the kid time. Like so this comes into play right now because I'm thinking in high school, I would be in calculus class and I would finish the homework and then I would just go walk around the school. Like I would go to the bathroom and just walk around, find some friends, go sit in my friend's class, and we weren't allowed to talk in this calculus class once we're done. So I'm forced to not be on my phone, or I'm forced to just sit there at a desk. I have no other homework to do because I've already done it in other classes in the similar situation. So I go to my friends, and honestly, the point of this is that it's not very balanced to make the kids who finish their work sooner in school, like, just sit there in boredom and waste their time. You know how much, like, time seemed so valuable in high school. Oh my God. Like, I just had no time to do, like, anything. Like college compared to high school is just insane. Anyway, I got off topic here, but we all like to see equality. We all like to see fairness, and here is just some basic things that I could see making the world a more fair place, right? And so I think a large reason why home prices are so inflated right now is because of the excessive renting. I think that people over a certain net worth shouldn't be able to purchase and rent back single family homes or single apartments, or they should have a limit at how many like maybe they can do five of them. They can own five properties. But now we've got like these billion-dollar people. They'll buy up hundreds, thousands of single family homes, apartments, and rent them back higher. It's like controlling the supply and controlling the price. I don't know how this is legal, but it's happening. So that's one of the things. Another thing I'd see in fairness is there are chemicals in the Gatorade. Okay, Gatorade is a huge drink here in America, but everywhere else in the world, there are ingredients in Gatorade that are outlawed. So Gatorade makes their product different everywhere else in the world except in America, where they can throw in a couple food dyes that are illegal in other countries. Now, why do they do that? Why do they change their production process in one country when they could just have a uniform production process across the entire globe? It's because they can sneak these dyes into it in America. I mean, sneak isn't even the right word. It's legal. They can put these dyes in America, hurt the consumer, and save money. Like that, that I don't understand how that's fair. I think America is becoming a little too dominated by lobbying and corporate interests, but I don't even know the point of what I'm talking about anymore, but I feel like I'm having a good conversation with myself right now. Uh, how else could I balance the world? The schooling system, definitely. I mean, college. Oh, college needs to be 2 years. College definitely needs to be 2 years and half the price. Each year should cost half the price, and it should be 2 years. You know how much bullshit I've learned in college? You know how much bullshit? Like, most people, when they get a job out of college, they're gonna learn on the job more than they learned in like 9 out of 10 of their college classes. Like, if we just got rid of college altogether and we just taught people on the job, like we did like mentoring, or we just had kids like go to an accounting guy and mirror him or watch him work for a week. Oh my God, we'd learn so much more. Like, I, I think there's a reason why so many people hate the education system, and not just the education system, but school in general, is because it's so outdated. And then not just there's a lot of knowledge that you can gather in the schooling system that's modern, but the fact that we still think that this is the most efficient way to gather knowledge is just so absurd to me. Like, a picture's worth 1,000 words. We can watch videos with people drawing visuals and talking at the same time, pointing things out. Like, you can learn infinitely more from technology and from a modern approach than you can from read this old textbook, do this worksheet. I mean, and so many people just don't learn that way. Like, I did not learn from school. I think I learned more in life from video games and my dad and talking to people than I did from school. I mean, school didn't hurt, taught me to do math problems and stuff like that. School definitely taught me a lot, but I learned more from life than I did from school, especially because, in school a lot I would learn from school, but not in the way that school meant for, like I'll do like a physics problem and the math won't be too crazy, but then I'll look at the physics of it and say, wow, like that's really interesting. Like we had this physics chapter or something where we would talk about like light bouncing off of like mirrors or like lasers bouncing and the angles, and I found it very interesting. And it also just made me realize that I used to think about that stuff when I was little. Like, I would look at the ceiling and think, oh, if I shot a laser right there, it would bounce off like this and then like that. I don't know why I would think like that, but um, yeah, physics has always just been a supernatural curiosity of mine. And if I could draw on my screen right now and make like a whiteboard while I talk, ooh, I could make so many cool things and explain things so well. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get into that. But if I could make the world like, obviously I don't want the world to be like communist where everyone makes the same amount of money. That's too far, but I think we're way too far on the other end of the spectrum right now. Like, there is no reason with the level of technology and capabilities that humans have right now that there should be countless people working like 40 hours a week, barely living. Not just working 40 hours a week, but working like 30. Like, we totally have the ability as a society to have people working like 30 hours a week, everyone working 30 hours a week and still like exist, buy food, afford to live. Like, and what's a shame is that what I seriously worry about this. Like, let's say there's a revolution or whatever, and we got rid of all the billionaires or some crap, which isn't what I want. This is not at all what I want. But this is what people seem to say on social media sometimes because of this, recent Luigi Mangione guy. But it's like, okay, let's say we got rid of billionaires and all the rich people. Let's say like every person over $1 billion, we got rid of them, or we did not allow them in the business world anymore. They just had to like sit out. Now everyone's afraid to change the world. Now everyone's afraid to innovate. Everyone's like, "Oh, I don't want to make money, then I might get shot." Like, that's an unsustainable approach to society, right? But at the same time, I think the healthcare industry offers absolutely nothing to society. I think hospitals would be much cheaper if all the prices were public and just advertised on boards like a menu at McDonald's at every hospital, and you knew everything, and there wasn't this middleman who was trying to pay some of it and keep prices high. And yeah, I really think that in the insurance industry in America is one of the worst. It also like a processed food industry. Um, I don't know too much about the processed food industry. I do know that there are plenty of ingredients in America that are illegal in every other country in the world, but not in America for some reason. If that doesn't make you a little curious, I don't know what will. Um, like these companies, they literally have uniform production processes. They make the exact same product in Russia, China, Europe, Africa, South America, Mexico, Canada. Every single country on the globe, these giant companies create their products. Like let's say Rice Krispie treats. I don't even know if this is correct, but no, let's use Gatorade, right? Because Gatorade's an example I know. Gatorade, they use natural food dyes across the entire planet, and maybe not in New Zealand. I think there's one other country. New Zealand and the United States are the only two countries that they can use these red dye and blue dye or whatever. How could that possibly be better unless they were saving money by using cheaper inputs? It can't be cheaper for them to change the production process unless they're using cheaper inputs and making more money. It's like, it's literally just, this is what America is saying. Okay. This isn't bad enough for health for us to not care about profit more. I mean, how can you say that's not true? That's how it is. That America says, okay, we don't care as much about this red dye 40 as we do about profit. Or at least that's what the I mean, politics might actually just be like insanely corrupt more than any of us could possibly imagine because I mean, when you look into lobbying and these companies, what they do and how they got there and who they've talked to, who their friends are, I mean, it's crazy. I don't even want to look into politics more because it'll just upset me. Like the levels of corruption in politics are just insane. Like, I mean, the fact that lobbying is legal just blows my mind. Like, we can have private companies pay politicians for well, they don't definitively say, oh, lobbying is for paying politicians to make things easier for my business, but that's fucking what it is. So I mean, that's just crazy, but jeez, man.